Hi, I'm Kyle Roy,
And I'm Caleb Robinson.
and I am the editor / producer of Seventh.
Yeah, and I'm a producer as well, and I did some of the visual effects that you'll be seeing here.
Yeah. Alright, that's the one we're using.
Okay, yeah, that's the one. That's the first Shoebox Entertainment logo ever.
Yes. So, I'm trying to think of what to say here. This entire opening sequence, before when I first started editing the project with Micah, he already had like a rough assembly of the opening titles that you see here. So this is basically like what he had, but I just went in and fine tuned it.
That's a visual effect.
Oh yeah, him.
I was gonna do something way more extravagant, but we basically just ran out of time, and I think it's better for it. It's less. I think it would have been more obvious if we did what I was originally gonna do.
Yeah, because the whole movie was not actually shot on that camera.
No. Yeah, this was shot on a Handycam that your dad owns, right?
Yes. We still need to
Give back to him.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that later. That is dubbed in. The sound effects.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
There's a lot of moments where I think you guys forgot to record audio, so we had to go back in and...
Yeah.
The toothbrush part was an example of that. If I'm a little, scatterbrained, it's because I just woke up from a nap. But we're going to roll with it. Alright.
This stuff coming up was shot right outside Gage's house, and now my place too.
There's a lot of montages in this movie, and I feel like every montage took, even though they go by so fast, they take such a long time to edit and get the timing right.
I was always very worried about this shot right here, and luckily you guys edited it so well that it's not noticeable, but I was always like, that does not look like the 90s.
Yeah.
But it kind of just works, and you never really question it.
I mean, if you really want to go and find, there's lots of stuff.
Yeah.
But, hopefully none of it is too distracting.
Yeah.
I remember talking with Micah how we should end, whether or not that was a weird transition, how we got rid of the song there.
Oh, I love that cut. That's one of my favorite editorial things in the movie, actually.
Yeah, it just felt weird to fade there for some reason.
But the thing is it doesn't really sound like a fade, even though it technically is. At least not to me.
Yeah. Yeah, we spent a while on this these first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Again, this was part of the stuff that had already been edited by Micah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of jumping in and fine tuning it.
Little Nathan here. Nathan Mays, the star of this film, arguably.
Oh yeah, I remember me and Micah talked about I sort of pitched him the idea. So let me kind of preface by saying that I have a certain excuse me. Again, just woke up. Viewpoint and sort of philosophy on editing, where it's, especially with this movie, I would consider it its own writing process. So luckily Micah was very open to a lot of my ideas, and I think one of the main things that dictated how we cut this movie was I wanted every time that Nathan shows up on screen, we try to cut as little as possible, because in the universe of this movie, assuming that Jordan is the one who's putting this footage together, editing it, and if it's a real whole movie, you wouldn't, you would try to focus on, Nathan. And I think a lot of those moments where, he's doing very birthday related stuff. It helps when you don't cut very much.
This is the first found footage thing I think any of us have done, really, outside of like little skits Gage and I used to do. This is really it for found footage stuff. So you guys had a challenge on your hands of figuring out like how to really do this, and you guys did a good job, I think.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're editing from a completely different perspective than a normal narrative film.
For sure. But also,
the camera is way more a character than in any other situation.
Right. I also didn't want to like personally. I didn't want to like cut just because I could. I did want there to be like kind of like a rhythm to it, and you know, and I wanted to try to like cut as little as possible. And I actually tried to really like keep a lot of just like moments where like things just sit as much as I could, even though I feel like the pace is like really like brisk.
Yeah.
Like, so every cut feels like there's like a reason, because if you just cut every 2 seconds, then every cut just feels like that has no impact.
I like this scene a lot.
Yeah. I wasn't on set for most of this.
Yeah, you were on set for the arcade scene, and that's about it, right?
Oh, and the reshoots we did.
That's right. And I wasn't there for the reshoots.
Yeah, so I can talk about that when we get there.
All right, right on. Yeah.
But what was I gonna say? I remember talking before you guys started shooting about sort of like inviting the idea of just sort of like, if you guys like mess up a line or something, try to like work with it. And I think it really adds like a nice like, because there definitely was a script. There was like a full script.
Yep.
And I mean, you guys followed it pretty close, but also you were still able to like incorporate a lot of like nice little improvised moments, and I think it gives it like a nice like fluid.
It definitely convinces you that it's like, at least while you're watching it, it convinces you that it's a home video.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't feel cinematic at all, but in a good way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
This is one of the rare instances where you don't want it to be cinematic. You want it to be the opposite.
Right. You want it to just feel like these guys just turn on a camera and they're just being themselves.
Yeah.
And you don't really think about it, but when you're like just making a home movie, like you don't. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no planning. You just kind of pull
out your camera. The more you
seem
like you're putting on a performance,
yeah,
you can kind of get away with it when it's like a conventional like movie, but it helps the like authenticity of it when the performances are kind of rough around the edges, and you can kind of tell when there's like improvised moments.
Yeah.
If you listen closely, you can hear Mario 64 in the background.
Which was actually recorded, I think, right? He didn't just rip it from YouTube. He actually recorded it because he has a...
Yeah. So Micah recorded this, and we added it in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because there was no sound when you guys shot this. No video game sounds, I mean.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite things is I purposely... When that cut happens, you can tell that it's a different part in the video game to kind of more like sell the cut.
That was also, I think we had to zoom and crop this in a little bit because the camera tilted between cuts, didn't it? Or did I forget?
I don't think for this one.
Okay. No. That happens later in the movie.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm really proud of like making it sound like it was like actually like on like a TV.
Oh yeah.
And we kind of had like we kind of had our own editing like system for how me and Micah did this. Micah basically played the role of the assistant editor. But first, before I say that, I don't know if you could tell, but when he gives him the present, you can hear that he paused it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know. I'm very proud of how.
This is very. I like the editing here.
Yeah.
This got a lot of laughs at the premiere.
Yeah.
I think it plays really well.
I was like, this needs to be really frantic. And then that was an authentic moment. Him running out of tape, I don't think it was in the script, and I think you guys are like off the cuff trying to
That's cool, yeah.
And I like that we have like a little piece of it. Because you want to use, if there is like a real moment that you can use, we wanted to use it.
Definitely.
You know, because it just adds to like the authenticity of it. Here's a prime example of me trying not to cut as much as possible. Because like this is so Nathan focused, so I wanted to keep all the like them handing them the camera, and there was also a small part in there where there was something on the floor that was like a little bit too obvious that it wasn't like from 1997. So Micah asked me to like blur it out for like a half a second. You can't even tell that I did that. It just looks like a.
You can. This is just a little insider. You can see the scripts in the background.
Oh yeah.
But you never notice.
Yeah.
Right behind Nathan. There's 2 of them right there.
We definitely talked a lot about that. Like, is that gonna be an issue?
The second you make it an issue is when it becomes an issue.
Right. But now that you've listened to this commentary, you will never be able to unsee it. You're welcome. But yeah, you can kind of tell, like, I haven't cut yet.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just
and I'm
helps
glad you didn't. I would have, I will say this, I would have, and I'm glad that it, like, you edited it, because if I had, I would have, and it would have been a mistake to do that. I would have never thought to, like, edit from that perspective.
Yeah. It just helps it, like, it feels the most like a home movie when it's just, when it's scenes like this.
Yeah, and I like some of the intentionally sloppier editing that happens throughout the movie too, because like you have to think of it like he's editing this,
right?
You know? Yeah,
you can honestly kind of get away with it not being like super, because it's like, but also you know, there's like cutting to the music, and so you kind of have to like put on like your, I don't know, put your brain in a certain mode.
Yeah.
I remember we talked about if him saying that's not the line, if that would be like too like, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if like people understood that like it was he was talking about that's not the line from Toy Story. No, instead of that's not the line for 7. Yeah.
I think it plays the way it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you mean the Meadowbrook Family Home Center?
Nathan is so great.
Yeah, he's way too good. He's like the best actor in this whole movie.
That's another, probably actually this is I love that cut so much.
There's a lot of cuts I'm really proud of that just like feel right. This was not in the script. This is just
that line destroys
I think
me.
This is
Why
just
are there bugs in Super Mario Land?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is just Gage. That was just Gage like waiting for Micah and testing out the camera.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
That's what Nathan decided to say, and I was like, that's too good not to keep in the movie. Oh, that dang Rubik's Cube. We'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with that Rubik's Cube in post.
Yeah. I remember there's a lot of cuts in this movie that like I tried to like cut on like a door shutting, or like it gives it a very like kinetic, almost like, I don't know. It adds like a nice rhythm to everything.
Yeah.
I was very inspired by the films of Matt Johnson.
Oh, definitely.
Because we watched some of those before we watched this. He
we basically forced Micah to watch The Dirties before we started filming this.
Yeah. Well, it's so close to like what he was trying to go for.
Yeah, definitely.
Originally, this scene, because this is before the montage starts, and originally in the script it was just gonna play the Will Smith song, and then I pitched the idea to Micah. I was like, "Well, you guys listen to the song right before, and it'd be a mistake not to use that to transition into the scene."
That scene transition is great.
Yeah.
This day was insane.
Yeah. We definitely did a really good job making it look like a blast.
Yeah.
But it was definitely pretty stressful. Because I was here for that day.
I can't even tell.
I am, if you look, there I am.
Yep.
For a split second. There's my cameo.
You were there for like 3 seconds.
Yeah. And then I love that he's... it's almost like they're ignoring him for a second.
Yeah.
He's just on his Game Boy. I tried my best to make the audio not as noisy.
Yeah, if there's one thing I wish we would have had more time with on 7th, it was this scene, but I still think it's audible enough.
Mm-hmm. This was one of those where, like, me and Micah, like, spent, like, at least a solid hour trying to decide what take to use.
Yeah.
And I think we just decided on this one. There was just, like, enough, like, funny. Like, you guys with the fly, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause clearly that was not planned.
Yeah.
And, of course, Nathan just keeps going like a pro.
Yeah. Big Nathan, like older Nathan Morales and I were eating gummy worms on the side here, and you'll see us in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Like the one time that we Big Nathan shows up again, but this is the only time that I show up, I think.
There's originally a little bit more to this part after he gets slapped with the pizza, but we cut it just kind of for time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm in the corner over there looking directly at the camera, which works because it's found footage.
Yeah. Yeah, we see you a couple times in the background. So yeah, here's the Will Smith song. So I kind of decided to kind of split it up. It was like 2 separate montages.
Yeah.
This took a little bit for me to kind of figure out how I wanted to like structure this montage.
Yeah, this scene wasn't even edited for the rough cut. This wasn't even done.
No. And I edited the movie like for the most part chronologically, but there were a couple scenes and sequences that like I was kind of like...
You wanted to keep the momentum, so you were like, okay, I'll hit pause on this. And
yeah, because it was like, we'll come back to that later, and this was one of them, and I think I didn't have like an actual like cut of this until like one of the last cuts we did.
Yeah.
I think it turned out well, though.
For people who live in Yakima, this sequence is pretty nostalgic and cool.
There's Nathan.
Oh, yep, that was Nathan.
We had to include that. We were contractually obligated to.
Yeah, I kind of forced your hand. I was like, you guys better
I think it works,
keep
though.
Nathan.
It's funny.
Yeah, just like this depressed dude while everyone else is having the time of their lives. That scene. I love that line.
Oh yeah, and if you look really closely, there might be a little hooded figure in the background if you look closely.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Micah and Gage are gonna go into that more on their commentary, but there's definitely like relevance to that.
I don't know, man. It's just, I don't think it's fair you give me an 8 on the whole when my body, which I have no control over whatsoever, decided.
I'm very impressed that we were able, like, here, this is like an on-set observation, but I'm very proud of how efficient this shot went down, because I don't know, the timing is pretty crazy, and Big Nathan has a lot to do with that. He was standing off camera, and he was there to signal Little Nathan on when to run up.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised we got it as fast as we did, because this is kind of difficult.
I'll take this time to sort of explain like me and Micah's like editing process, because it was kind of unique. Like I said earlier, he kind of played the role of the assistant editor, and if you're not familiar, like the assistant editor basically is like the one who kind of like organizes all the clips. And so for efficiency's sake, I would come over to his house and he would have like a certain amount of clips like organized and be like, these are the takes that I like, and then like, so we, for the most part, we didn't have to like go through every single take and decide together. He already kind of had an idea of what he wanted to use, so I could just throw it in there and we can be like, oh yeah, that works.
The hood, real fast, the hooded figures in this shot too.
Oh yeah. And if you might have noticed that Nathan saying "I want ice cream" is definitely dubbed.
I never noticed that actually.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
If you go back and look at it, like his lips definitely do not match up. And we talked a lot about that. And we were trying to so it's kind of one of those things we just kind of hope nobody notices.
Yeah, definitely. I keep saying definitely.
Yeah. Oh, I keep rambling like a. like an imbecile.
Another thing, visual effects wise, I wish I had time to do was paint out that Dairy Queen logo because it's the modern one. But I'm just a nitpicker.
Yeah, well, we kind of had a fast turnaround for this whole movie, didn't we?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we were shooting this at the same time that we were shooting like the last quarter of Not So Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the great film A League of Their Own once said, there's no crying in baseball.
That's a great cut.
Hear what?
His little chocolate mustache
Oh,
makes me
yeah.
laugh here.
he I think in reality they were just like super like hot and tired, but like it almost comes across like he had so much ice cream that he's like on like a sugar high. It
Yeah.
just-
Beauty and the Beast? That one's pretty good.
No, it's too early for me, so I don't like it.
It is, I'm really glad we picked this take. Just everything going on, like the whole like thing with you
Yeah.
with Micah and Gage, like yeah, that nod makes me
Yeah.
laugh every time, and just the whole thing they do in the background with like switching the
Yeah, this is a very interesting performance for Gage because this is like I feel like this character on paper couldn't be more different than Gage in reality, and he just somehow pulled it off.
If you listen closely, the Micah saying like, "Wait, what?" It was dubbed
Oh, okay,
because it just
okay.
felt weird with it like completely silent, which is originally
I think
how it was
yeah,
shot.
I remember that.
So we went back and just recorded like a quick like, "Wait."
Yeah.
There's a lot of little stuff like that where we just like added a line here and there just because like it
Or
felt
changed a performance through ADR.
yeah, or combined like 2 takes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that actually. There's probably already been some, and I just like haven't mentioned them.
Yeah. It's actually kind of interesting how much those reshoots end up shaping the movie, because this movie didn't work nearly as well as it ends up working in the original cut stage.
I think the end and the beginning were mostly the same, but it was
Yeah.
just like that sort of like second act portion.
Yeah.
That
The
just,
main
like,
plot of the movie is the same, but like the way it unfolds is slightly different, and it's more effective now.
right. The character motivations needed to be more like. I love that he looks straight into the camera. But like the character motivations, I think needed to be like a little bit more. Hold on, before I say that, that was not planned.
What was it?
Him, Nathan sneezing,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I was like, we have to use it because like there's like a split second right after I cut where they just start laughing. You can't write that stuff. It's
No.
too perfect. That shot of him looking through the window and then panning over to Nathan, that was 2 shots combined.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you
Interesting.
can't even tell because
Yeah.
of
Whenever you're panning, you can pretty much cut and nobody will know as long as the
Yeah.
next shot starts similarly.
there's a few times I like eased it in with like a fade or like
Okay.
or I did a couple times like some fancy keyframe editing to kind of like
Cool.
yeah.
So this is what I'm sticking with.
Micah was pretty on top of props. He had bought pretty much all of these props before we started filming.
This is another example of like where things start to wind down and the movie starts to
Yeah.
like ease into this like a little bit more like kind of tense like tone, and I wanted to like see him walk all the way upstairs because like early in the movie we probably would have like just there probably would have been a lot of cuts there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very much a big advocate for like, no, let's just like let the moment play out.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Mike had talked about cutting this, and I thought it was kind of important for the audience to kind of like, in case they weren't paying attention, like super closely, they can kind of like get a refresher and see Gage kind of piece it together. And they can
It's very necessary for Gage's character.
yeah. I just like that things start to slow down, and it's like a drastic change from like earlier in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Oh, okay.
wonder what little Nate's room looks like now, because I remember Micah, like, did a lot to it to make it look like the 90s.
It looks fairly similar. I think his bed's in a different spot,
Okay.
but
I love that running joke.
what's in his closet? Yeah. Oh man, this was a scene that was like, it was brutal trying to pick which take to use, and they're all so similar, and they're all like super long takes.
Yeah. This was a scene that in my notes I said consider cutting it, but I'm glad you guys didn't, because it really helps the flow.
Mm-hmm. I think we need to have that moment where like Jordan's starting to kind of like, I don't know, you're kind of seeing him piece it together like in his mind, and you kind of need to,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the reason I was saying to cut back then is because this was when I said that it was before the reshoots, so I was trying to figure out how to make things work without doing reshoots, but we did the reshoots, and now this scene works a lot.
For sure.
I think the big thing with pre-reshoots is that Gage's character was very all over the place with like his like journey throughout this movie.
Yeah.
One scene he'd be really like goofy about the situation, and the next he'd be really serious about it, and we needed to like make that transition. You know, it needed to be consistent. Now it is.
Definitely. I think it's interesting because like the beginning of the second act, like Jordan's almost like playing the role of the audience a little bit. And I think it helps you kind of invest you into the story, because like, I don't know, you kind of need like someone to kind of like anchor them and move the plot forward.
Mm-hmm.
We cut a line out, by the way.
Right there.
Yeah, when
his head like moves.
Yeah, I think he said seconds again or something.
Okay.
Like he like reiterated himself, seconds.
Would have never known that.
And it just was just too weird.
Yeah.
So we just kind of cut it.
This movie flies by.
Yeah. I mean, it's an hour and 11 minutes, but it feels like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Because of the pacing. But I wanted it to be slow when it should be and fast when it should be, you know? Because then you want to be able to sit with those moments, or else I don't think the movie would work.
Another thing that I'll call myself out for is that I was very, very, like, I was convinced that this was not going to be feature length, and it ended up being feature length.
I remember we talked about
Yeah.
that.
For a long time, I was like, yeah, Micah, this is not going to be feature length, but thankfully.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't, it wasn't, but Micah was very set on it being feature length, and I'm glad it just naturally ended up being that.
Yeah. Nathan, this last scene that we just watched, Nathan saying I won was also dubbed in.
Oh, okay.
I forgot to mention that.
Well, that's a great addition.
And this is where the reshoots started happening. Where we needed to kind of like fine tune Gage's like character.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, I think in the original he was just kind of like, "What is this?" type of thing.
The reaction was like a little bit too comedic. And
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know. It felt weird because he's
By
like
this
serious
point-
in the next scene.
Yeah.
This is also a reshoot, and I think I actually pitched this to Micah. The idea for this scene.
Very, very necessary.
Yeah, I was like, they should just like talk in the hallway, and I kind of directed it in a weird way because
Yeah.
I'm actually behind the camera for this.
This is like one of those scenes that like was missing, and you could never put your finger on it until you guys just did it. I would never be able to be like, you need to add this scene, but it needed to be there.
And all their dialogue here is like basically improvised.
Another scene where timing with Nathan is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, we like worked out this whole thing. Like he should be in the bathroom, like in
Yeah.
the background, going to the bathroom and stuff.
That's awesome.
Kind of adds like, because if it was just them talking, it would just be kind of like static and boring. But I like that there's multiple things happening in one shot. Yeah, we shot this a couple times, like a couple different versions. They kind of worked out their own like little dialogue. Like I said, completely improvised.
That's awesome.
And kind of I'm sure Micah and Gage and Nathan will talk about this in their commentary, but like a slight character thing with Jordan. You'll notice anytime there's like a thing with his hat, I'm sure they'll talk about it, but I'll just point it out casually. Because I'm sure they'll talk about it.
This is like...
This is a moment that needed to happen, and without it, it just felt weird.
This is like exactly what was missing from his character. He needed this moment to like...
Yeah.
For the audience to like understand where he's coming from.
Because it went from them looking for it immediately to them, or him finding it in the cubby, and then immediately to them searching the house, and it just felt too abrupt. You almost needed like a scene in between, and this just turned out to be the perfect scene. I love that Nathan's like in the background. He's almost kind of like eavesdropping on the conversation.
You also framed this really well to hide the fact that Nathan's hair is quite a bit longer here.
Oh, yeah.
You don't really notice because he's hidden behind that wall.
Yeah. This was like a couple months after you guys like...
Yeah. I was in Seattle. That's the reason I wasn't here.
Oh, I didn't know that. Nathan almost says, okay, Gage. Which is...
This is also a reshoot, right?
Yes.
Yes, because his performance was also too goofy or something like that, right?
Well, I think Gage just specifically was not happy with his performance.
Okay, yeah.
I can kind of see why. I think he just wanted it to be more consistent with his performance.
Well, you guys also just
like
reshot the house search thing, so you might as well reshoot the build-up to it.
There originally was going to be a montage of them searching the house. I think in the script, Micah had it set to House of Pain's jump around. It was more of a comedic, fun scene.
Yeah.
And we already had so many montages at that point, and it just didn't feel like the right vibe.
Yeah. Well, in
for this part of the movie,
the way that was going to be put together too was kind of problematic, also because it's a found footage movie, and it was going to show everybody spreading out and searching, and that doesn't really.
Right.
It's
almost too movie-like.
Yeah.
For this type of movie.
That would mean that like the camera person would have to keep moving to different. So this is way that works.
This was Micah's idea to kind of film it this way. I'm pretty sure, just
let the scene happen. You don't have
house
to,
already being wrecked.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And like I said, this is reshoots, and you would never notice, but I'm actually sitting behind that counter. I'm in the kitchen, like sitting on the floor.
That's awesome.
Like hiding.
Love that. It's so funny.
Completely an ad-lib.
That kills me. No, but I found this flashlight.
Yeah, Nathan just like still is like, oh, this is just like a fun game. We're all having fun here.
Maybe we can't go looking for the house. Searching for them could be pointless. Maybe they have to like present themselves to us in a natural way.
I think originally the scene was like felt a little bit too scripted, maybe.
Yeah.
And now it feels like a little bit more like, I don't know, like slice of life.
Yeah. I mean, there is... I don't know if Michael will ever say this, and I'm sure he's okay with me saying it, but when... like, literally, even after the script was done, he wasn't completely set on making this found footage. So some of those scenes aren't written necessarily in a very found footagey way. So you guys... We just had to kind of figure it out in post and on set. We had to figure things out.
Yeah,
but...
I feel like we were constantly writing, even when we were editing and shooting and everything.
I forget what movie it was, but I showed Mike a movie, and afterwards he was like, man, I don't know if I should do this found footage. So, like, literally a week before production started, he was still, like, battling with that.
I had no idea. Super interesting.
But I'm glad he settled on it, because it fits much better.
are you going to invite those challenges, or are you going to
I like that
away from the
it's almost like he has no idea what he's talking about. Like in these parts of the movie.
I guess to sum up, there are two
So he just
people,
keeps like
kinds of people.
using movie analogies.
Those who cower away from life's inevitable curveballs.
Micah's character is basically Micah.
More or less.
In a strike, so you might as well swing.
Here's the
That's a
most
great cut.
complicated shot of the entire film.
Yep, this is like where I did most of my visual
Yeah.
effects work, because
You would-
Micah's grandma was in the background for like 50% of this shot. She was out working on the backyard.
Right, and you would never know.
Yeah.
It seems so simple. And on top of that, you guys forgot to record audio for this entire scene, so all the sounds were added in.
Yeah,
And it's you would never notice, because
yeah.
we just made it work, I guess.
I'm so glad YouTube didn't take this down.
Yeah.
I was worried about it with the Toy Story audio. Oh, this part was so complicated because she was there, so I had to
yeah.
roto out the door, I had to roto out Gage, I had to roto out that lamp, I had to roto out Little Nate. It was insane.
Yeah.
All for like 10 seconds of the...
But, I mean, like,
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because that is something that you would notice, and you'd just be like, what?
for sure. And I remember we, like, very specifically, like, picked this part of what's playing on TV for this part of the scene.
Yeah.
Because we wanted it to almost kind of, like, be kind of like a soundtrack for the scene in a weird way.
Thank God we shot this on the Handycam, because if that background wasn't overexposed, that would have been 12 times harder.
Yeah.
Because I would have had to recreate the background.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how it kind of like winds down when you see Gage
Yeah.
outside.
That, oh man, the placement of the song and the zoom into Gage is brilliant.
Was this was a reshoot too, I think.
No, it wasn't. It was one of the last things we shot, but I don't think it was a reshoot.
Well, I don't think it was originally in the script. Maybe.
This entire scene was written by Gage. I don't think it was in the original script though.
Okay. Yeah, because I wasn't here for that.
Yeah.
This part. And I think this might be my favorite scene of the whole movie.
What's that supposed to be?
I remember us figuring out how to do this shot, and then having Nathan do the trampoline adds so much to it. I'm glad we ended up doing that.
Oh yeah.
It's probably my favorite shot of the movie because there's just so much depth to the image. There's so many things happening,
For sure.
but not in a distracting manner.
Well, it's almost telling a story visually, like,
Yeah,
as much as with the dialogue.
definitely, yeah.
And it's like a nice little, like... I feel like this is the most, like, inside the characters' heads that we get in, like, the whole movie.
Yeah.
And you get so good at it that you just get bored.
There's, like, a nice little arc between them.
Well, that's probably why I'm only ever good at one
And I think we... Don't we establish... I don't know if we established, but I think it was always implied that these kids were, like, in high school.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I think it's pretty obvious. They're either in high school or late junior high.
I don't know if they were that young, but...
Yeah.
If I could find something I love doing.
Yeah, I think they were supposed to be, like, juniors or seniors in high school, maybe.
Well, I don't know what I love doing, so I guess.
I mean, I think we all have pretty young faces, but I don't know if we could pass for junior high. It might be a stretch.
Probably not Gage, maybe Micah. I think Micah could, like, if it wasn't for how tall Micah was, he could pull off a middle schooler.
You hear that, Micah? Caleb says you could pull off a middle school. I set you up for that one. It's not fair.
No, it's okay.
Different options to choose from when it comes to your future. Be a basketball player. You've got the Cavs.
Yeah, favorite scene of the
Thanks.
This is one of the only times shooting 7th that little Nathan was, like, pretty much just done with the shoot. He was,
Yeah.
like, I remember, like, walking him out 3 cups of water. He was just done.
Wow.
I mean, he was having to jump the whole time, and we did this, like, 5 times, so I understand,
Jeez.
but,
He's a little pro, though.
yeah. Very professional.
Sometimes more professional than...
The adults.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more professional than me. That's for sure.
And you really think
Yeah,
I'm s-
there's not a whole lot to say here.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're.
Oh, I'm so happy you guys did those reshoots because it completely just puts a Band-Aid on the Gage issue. He works completely now.
There's not a whole lot to say here editing-wise because we don't cut very much.
Yeah, you guys don't cut at all, do you?
We cut once.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was kind of maybe that's kind of part of it is like
Yeah.
the whole importance is not cutting
Mhm.
a whole lot during a scene like this because it just would take away from it. It would
Yeah.
just distract.
Here, come over here and play around with me. Okay. We're leaving in a little bit.
I don't know. There's something kind of like weirdly heartwarming about this scene.
Yeah. It's the scene where you really get to know who they are outside of this story.
You know, nothing pleasures me more.
There's a little bit of a nerd nitpick, but this is like the only time where the movie, like, the camera quality looks slightly higher quality than it should, but like nobody but like me and
It's
maybe a couple other
it's
people would
because of
notice.
it's because of that zoom in. The farther in you zoom in on that handycam, the more high quality it looks because
Yeah.
of the depth of field.
Yeah, and also I just feel like it on an actual VHS camera the background would be more overexposed.
Probably.
But I
Yeah,
feel like
there's like 3 or 4 things that I wish we had a little bit more time on, but none of them are distracting.
that right there, that pan,
Uh-huh.
that was a combination of 2 shots.
Wow.
Yeah. If
Was it like cut and then cut back to another take? Was that what you were doing?
No, when they cut to Nathan.
And then it's another take and it
Yeah.
keeps on that? That's awesome.
Well, if you go back and look at it, you can very clearly see that like Micah's hand goes like,
Yeah.
like it shoots up.
There's the hooded guy again.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll talk about that like
Yeah.
very much in depth.
This day was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Or it's about to be crazy. I think these were 2 separate days when they walk up versus when they're actually in. But
yeah.
when they were in, half of this shoot was a 7th shoot and half of it was a not so shoot.
Oh yeah. I heard
And
about
Sid
that.
was in both of them, so we kind of just like, okay, the 7th one is done. Let's like shuffle in the not so people, and it was really really interesting.
And when they're inside, this is at night,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and it plays like it's just really dark inside. It works, I think.
and Sid and Gage both work at this movie theater, and so this was shot, I believe, when. Oh, also Micah, by the way. So this was shot like after hours, basically.
Yeah, this was the day before Joker came out, so if that gives you a little bit of an idea of when we were shooting this movie.
And I purposely like went back and added some like ambiance to make it sound like more people were there.
Oh,
If you
I never noticed
listen
that.
really closely, because originally, yeah, there was no sound.
I did the same thing in Not So it's gonna be we're gonna have to like exchange notes and see if we use the same audio file.
Same freesounds.org, baby. Woo!
Don't see anything. Right here, look. At first I thought it was a misprint or something that was just like on a few of them, but no, it's on every single one of the newspapers.
There's Nathan's car, the blue one in the background.
Oh yeah,
Rest in peace.
he doesn't drive it anymore. I don't think.
No.
And then the second one we found, there was Morse code markings for the number 6, and then 5, and then so on and so forth, which means
Nathan just looks like he's dying of boredom.
7 newspapers. And we found 6
Well, this was in the middle of summer, wasn't it?
This part was, I believe.
Right.
I
Some
believe,
of the-
but the indoor thing was one of the last things we shot, and it was in October.
Yeah. So it was probably super hot.
Yeah.
Not care. And honestly, I don't think Nathan does either.
well, you should.
Remember, we originally tried to
Yeah,
do a
and
scene transitioning from when it just like appears on the ground. But
Yeah.
it felt more weird when you
It-
brought more
yeah.
attention to it.
it still doesn't entirely work for me, but it works a lot more than I thought it did. It's one of those things where like I was very like, this is a problem, and then like once I just like accepted the fact that it wasn't gonna, like, this is just what was gonna happen, I was like, okay, it works. It's not ideal, but it works. It's more distracting to me than anyone else. I think that's it.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely one of those. It's one of the moments of the movie that's feels more cinematic.
Yeah.
And of course, a movie like this, you don't want it to feel super cinematic.
Yeah.
You want it to just feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
like a couple of kids filming a little home video, and it feels very like strategic how we place the camera and everything.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. The
I don't think most people.
performances.
I don't think most people think about it.
No,
It's
no,
just
no, no.
us who
I don't
think
think
about it.
anybody has brought it up. I'm the only one, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. The performances are amazing here. Probably the best performances in the movie. I love the way the filter, what it does to Micah's feet. It's
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I spent a long time because I kind of did some of the VFX like with the VHS. stuff.
Yeah. You handled the VHS stuff.
I wanted it. I didn't want it to be over the top because it's all a digital filter. We didn't
Yeah.
actually put it through a VHS, although we talked about that.
Yeah, that was something that we were considering.
But we originally, we considered that, and then we decided on doing it all digitally. And I wanted, in movies where it's supposed to look like a VHS, often it is not convincing to me.
Yeah. It looks like they shot it on a red Epic.
Yeah, and the filter is usually like way too strong and it's unrealistic.
It's either way too strong or it's not strong enough.
Yeah, or they add the like recording like
Or those
thing.
like scan lines that wouldn't be there if you just
Yeah.
ripped the VHS.
So I wanted it to be like subtle enough to where like you might not notice it, but also like I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if you really go back and you look at like VHS quality from this year, it's not as like it doesn't jump out at you as like a lot of those like After Effects plugins might lead you to believe.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted it to be subtle because the more that you can buy the idea that this is actually being filmed when it's filmed, the more you just like get sucked into it.
That was it for the Rubik's Cube, or it should have been.
Yeah.
But I like what we ended up doing, and I think it adds something.
I'll let you talk about
Yeah.
that when we get to it.
Yeah. So basically, this was shot because it's about to start happening. This was shot before the climax, basically, or this was shot after the climax, is what I'm trying to say. So the Rubik's Cube does keep showing up even after it's destroyed because we still had it
Yeah.
at the time, but we did something to it to make it like fit within the context of the story.
It was not supposed to be there.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be there, and we kind of run with that, with what we ended up doing.
Yeah, we kind of imply that there might be some.
Weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
Weirder stuff than what you're realizing.
It starts, you guys can go in without one. I'll be in
You were filming for this part, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Release the Calbo cut. Yeah, so I wasn't just holding the camera, I was doing Nathan's lines too, so yeah, this was kind of entertaining.
Somewhere there's footage of every time Nathan's supposed
Can
to
we
be
just
talking.
go watch the movie?
We just hear your voice, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Nathan, let's go inside.
Yeah, so him speaking right here is all dubbed.
Yeah.
It was really funny watching it back and just suddenly just hear your voice. Jordan, can I take the camera?
Yeah, and I had to hold this like down to my waist because obviously
yeah.
I'm taller, or I'm as tall as Micah, so I'm definitely taller than little Nathan. This was actually pretty difficult, but
And
I'm
you
glad
purposely tried to make it like the footage a little bit less like stable.
Yeah, because a little kid wouldn't be concerned about any of that.
The horn honking is added in. I actually did that. I went with Micah to the movie theater in the same location.
Oh wow!
With a car, and he told me like when to honk, and so that's actually me. The
That's
sound is
cool.
me
That's
honking.
cool. It's another one that looks really good. The shot, but like it's not distracting at all.
Mm-hmm.
That depth of field.
Yeah. It's framed really interestingly.
Yeah.
I kind of love it in movies when like it gets more crazy and intense. Like the camera quality reflects that.
Yeah.
Again, there's not a whole lot to say editing wise, because it's a lot of uncut takes.
Uh-huh.
But again,
This is something that we haven't brought up yet, but this was your first feature that you like were involved in this way.
oh yeah, I've never edited a feature film before this movie, so this was
Yeah.
entirely a learning experience. I'm very glad I decided to do it because I
Yeah.
learned a lot. I'm proud of a lot of the work I did on it.
You should be. It's got a lot of your personality, and it wasn't there when we shot it. So you definitely injected something into it that needed to be there.
It's one. I mean, it's one of those movies. I think the editing like makes it
It does, yeah.
like, yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie at all. There were a lot of doubts, I think, from everybody when we were finished shooting that like I don't know how this is gonna turn out. And I was definitely leaning towards the I'm not sure if this is gonna work out type thing, but you guys completely made it work out.
Yeah, Micah was very open to like listening to like things
Which is good.
ideas, but there were also a lot of times where I was like, we had moments where, you know, I was like, at the end of the day, it's your movie, dude. Like,
Yeah.
like, because Micah was a little too like, oh, what do you think we should do? And I'm like, you're gonna have to tell me that. You know, I can tell you what I think, but also like, you're guiding the ship here.
Micah did a lot of research on this stuff, and that's extremely commendable.
Oh yeah.
All the coding and stuff.
Is that like is that the actual
I believe so.
like
I believe
coordinates
so.
of where they're at? That's cool.
Yeah, he worked on it with his teacher. Yeah, his teacher was the one who, I think, said that it needed to be more complicated or something.
Very
I forget.
interesting.
I'd have to ask him, but
Maybe he'll talk about
Yeah.
that. Maybe not. I don't know.
who knows, yeah. So the visual effects stuff that we've been talking about is going to start happening.
Sorry, you might hear Caleb's dog, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy's here.
So if you hear a bunch of... That's Tommy. This part of the movie is like so ominous.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that when we showed this in front of people, like nobody could like figure out.
Yeah.
Like,
What was going to happen.
yeah.
And I don't think anybody really can. This is constructed really well.
Yeah.
Something is gonna happen. We wouldn't have been brought here for no reason.
This is like the scariest part of the movie because you're just anticipating. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you can
Here it is.
very
So,
clearly see the Rubik's Cube.
yeah, the Rubik's Cube is glitching out because it's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, but with that effect, you could
Yeah.
maybe interpret.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
like it's like a visual sign of what's to come, maybe.
Yeah. Again, we don't really give you all the answers at the end of this movie,
Yeah.
but there's definitely like some clues if you really pay
Yeah.
attention. But
I shot a lot of this stuff.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Yeah, I kind of like how we cut this because it was it feels like a natural progression of them just kind of
Yeah.
waiting around and
yeah. Most of the time when it's zooming, it's probably me holding the camera because I can't keep my finger off the zoom.
Caleb likes to zoom. If you need to learn anything about Caleb through this commentary, it's Caleb likes zooms.
That was one of my favorite shots that I did. This one right
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
It almost makes you think that like a plane's gonna crash or something.
Yeah.
Who did this shot? Was that Gage?
It wasn't me.
Okay.
I don't know. It might have been Micah.
That's like one of my favorite shots of the movie.
It's really cool.
Oh yeah. You could hear a little bit, but I added some sirens in the
Yeah.
background. They're very, very subtle.
Rubik's Cube is glitching once again. There I am in the background talking to my fiance. And you can tell that I'm on a phone, but I guess it could be like a Game Boy with a flashlight or something. I have no idea.
Yeah. Most people didn't notice that the Rubik's Cube was still there.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. Because that was something we talked about a long time. We were like, oh, God.
Yeah. This is probably the most egregious example of it being there still.
And by the time we were editing, it was like winter.
Yeah.
Or like just the tail end of winter, so we couldn't just like go down there and reshoot it real quick.
Yeah.
So we had to think on the fly. And it's not like we can cut the scene
Yeah.
out. I think we talked about cutting the scene out, but you just like, you can't, you have
You
to...
can't, yeah.
Yeah, you have to leave it all in. Oh, those pager sounds are added in. They're stock sound effects.
So, little tiny story about this pager. That's actually a kitchen timer that I spray painted black for Micah. And I thought... Micah wanted me to find a pager because I thought I had one, but I couldn't find it, so I just painted that. And then, like, right after this shoot, I found the pager, and I was like, oh! It was so frustrating.
Oh my
Because then he
gosh.
could have shown...
Yeah. I don't think anybody questions it, though.
Yeah, no. It looks like a pager. You just can't show the screen because there isn't really one.
Okay. Oh, Tommy. You could probably hear him licking.
Turn it off. No, it's just my mom. Turn it off. Are we just going home? Yep.
Yeah, this is one of those moments where it's like how you edit the scene is like pivotal to how intense it is.
Uh-huh.
And that was added in the
Oh,
siren.
yeah.
'Cause
Adds so much.
Yeah.
I'm calling my mom.
He's about to be on a payphone, which doesn't exist. That's another.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the phone that he bought off eBay, and Big Nathan is holding it up to his chest. It's really funny.
Like just off screen.
Yeah. Example of something looking really funny at the wrong angle. If this wasn't shot in this direction, you'd just be like, what?
So all those sounds of him pressing the buttons were added in after the fact.
Yeah, yeah.
This is another scene where it's like absolutely crucial not to cut.
Yeah.
And that's actually his mom on the other end.
Yeah.
And I was there when they recorded that too.
This is the only time that, like, the Rubik's Cube isn't glitching a ton because I ran out of time. It glitches at the beginning and the end, but it was really hard to keep that glitch going with Micah moving in front of it a ton.
Yeah.
We were doing this, like, a day or two before release, so
yeah.
I simply ran out of time with that one.
The turnaround was like so quick.
Yeah. But also, I don't think anybody really notices.
You hear more sirens in the background that I added.
It's great, yeah.
And we kind of talked about we didn't want you to exactly hear everything she was saying. We kind of wanted it to...
Let Micah's responses paint the picture.
Right. Because it adds more tension and...
Anything?
Yeah. If you could hear, like, everything she was saying... Well, also, it would be unrealistic because it's, you know, it's supposed to be a handy cam.
Yeah.
In, like, a conventional movie, you can kind of get away with that.
We're safe.
But in a movie like this, you want it to be a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, I know. We'll be home soon. Okay.
You needed to kind of sell that it just seems like such a shock and, like,
Yeah.
the characters almost can't really fully process what's going on right away. There was originally, like, way more to the
Yep.
scene.
We showed them putting the puzzle together and it was not working.
Well, it was almost like an example of, like, we were spoon-feeding the audience too much.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, and it
just-
felt like the characters were walking the audience through what was happening
Right.
instead of actually discovering it themselves.
And it all kind of took away from their shock, too. Because
Yeah.
they needed to kind of feel shocked.
Here's the thing. Everything's
And the way this intercuts at the end is so good.
Yeah, that was definitely, like, something that I pitched to Micah to kind of, like, play this over this shot where they're
Ugh.
driving home.
So good.
enjoy your few short seconds of life.
They're going to be passing by my fiance's work in a second. I never even put that together until just now, literally.
Is that Washington?
Yep, right there. If you were to turn right there, that's Cedar Hills. I don't know if it's Washington.
Have fun. Insert self-help quote here, and just understand.
It's, like, weirdly comedic, but also, like...
Well, what's so cool about it is, like, it is comedic because he did this part of the video early,
Right.
but it actually is relevant now.
Knowing what we know
Yeah.
now, it's kind of, like, unsettling.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
terrifying. When we played this in front of an audience, you could feel, like,
Uh-huh.
the energy in the air. And people
Yeah.
were just like, whoa.
It played very well.
Yeah.
with an audience.
And it was one of those things, if that didn't work, the movie didn't work.
I was sitting right next to little Nathan there, and I think I accidentally showed up in a couple shots that didn't end up in the movie, thankfully.
Yeah.
I was in here because I did the on-set version of the radio.
Right. Which was after the fact dubbed in with Nathan's real life dad.
Yeah.
It was a very deep, kind of monotone voice, and it kind of was perfect for this.
Yeah.
It's also kind of funny because if you know him in real life, he's kind of a goofy guy. So
Yeah.
But he just sells it perfectly.
Yeah. It's so good.
I spent a long time trying to make it sound like it was actually coming, like it was actually playing in that car.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. So good.
This was definitely something that I actually like, not spoon feeding it to the audience, but also like how it was cut and how we kind of don't directly tell you what's going on, and you kind of have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
It was actually something that I actually disagreed with on Micah, but he actually put his foot down, and now looking back, it was the right decision.
Yeah. It's a character thing.
It's such a careful moment too. You do not want to mess it up. You don't want to. No. You don't want to make it seem like they're underplaying it. You don't want to make it seem like they're, I don't know, explaining it too much to you.
Yeah. I love the fact that they keep this from him. Like, to his character, nothing has happened.
Right.
Outside of just, like, them not going to the movie.
You can kind of tell that, like, Nathan, you know, he's a smart kid. He could kind of, like...
He knows something's up.
Something happened.
He doesn't know the scope of what just happened.
Right.
I remember here I kept hitting my head on his light. Like, Nathan and I were in the back here.
Me and Micah talked about I think he wanted to cut the scene originally, and I was like, you can't. No, I was very much an advocate for keeping this.
Yeah, no, this needed to stay.
Yeah. I think he thought it was a little too melodramatic.
This wraps,
but I was like, you need it. You just
I don't even think it's melodramatic.
No, I don't.
It wraps up little Nate's arc, kind of.
Right. Without it would feel empty and
weird.
Because the movie's ultimately about him.
Yeah.
You know. And we end with a nice little joke.
Yeah. I love how nonchalant he is about it, too. It's not the over-the-top, like, I'm going to tell Mom. It's just like, I'm going to tell Mom.
Now, this sequence might be, in my opinion, my greatest contribution to this.
This is great.
This was a reshoot.
Yeah.
Originally, they just started talking about it, but it was another instance where we needed a scene in between to kind of massage. I thought they needed a moment to kind of just, like, sit and kind of, like, they've been kind of arguing the whole movie, and it's almost like they just need to kind of decompress and
for sure
process what's going on. And so I just kind of pitched the idea to Micah of them just kind of sitting and watching TV and not saying anything. And luckily he agreed, and I think it adds, like, a ton to this end.
I agree.
And by the way, that's not beer.
Yeah, but it plays like it's beer, and I'm all for it. I think that's like a funny detail.
Yeah, it's Sprite. It's bottles of Sprite. And there's Popeye. There's a story behind that. Micah said that what he would watch when he was feeling stressed, he would watch reruns of Popeye. So I was like, we got to use that because you have like a personal connection to it.
That's awesome.
So
this is the example of you guys having to untilt or yeah, okay, so when it cuts, it's going to be cropped in a little bit and tilted,
right? So I had to go in and recrop this next shot because it was completely a different angle. And if you look real closely, probably not that closely, you could clearly see there's a Harry Potter poster.
Oh,
but no one noticed apparently.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's like going really deep into like because to like the naked eye, it's like, oh, Harry Potter was out around this time. You'd have to like pull up IMDb
Yeah.
and like really go deep into that stuff to like realize that it came out a couple years
It's
later.
also another one of those things that like most people like they wouldn't even be able to tell it's a Harry Potter poster.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 30% of the poster, if that.
There's a lot of things in this movie that you'd think would be like a glaring issue, and like luckily like
Yeah.
people get so invested in the story that they don't
yeah.
notice. Which is a testament to the writing and the acting and the directing.
It's like Scorsese's editor always says that's like the last thing you should be worried about when you're editing a picture is the continuity of stuff, because if your story is good enough,
Right.
then that shouldn't be an issue.
Something I had to kind of teach myself even on the last
Yeah.
short that I did. I mean, if people were really paying that close attention to the stuff like that, we have a problem. That
Yeah.
means that they are not...
That means that your scene isn't working.
Yeah. Or to a greater extent, your whole movie's not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be horrible.
Yeah.
I think we talked about reshooting this scene, but
We did.
It's too perfect.
Yeah. It works. It works.
Yeah, originally this scene played directly after them putting Nathan to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good that we kept this because you at least see them like subtly piecing together the newspapers. It's not an off-screen thing. You can
Right.
still see that information on screen. In case it wasn't clear, like the audience gets to see what they're talking about visually, you know.
Right.
It also, like, if you cut this, I don't know how you would transition to the last montage, which is one of my favorite parts of the movie.
I apologize if you can hear my stomach gurgling. I don't know how sensitive your microphone is, but there's a very
I have no
chance
idea.
it's just
either.
like so I apologize for that. Have not had lunch. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, this version of the song is actually a cover of
Yeah,
Blackbird.
at the premiere we had the full like the original version, but
Right.
like that night we realized that YouTube wasn't cool with this song, so
So last minute we had to find like a cover.
yeah, which is almost exactly the same, just
Yeah.
minus the lyrics. I think it works better without the lyrics.
I don't know. I personally like both, but I think they both
Yeah.
work.
Yeah,
And this scene, this last shot is like, I wouldn't change anything.
no, it's so good. Best part of the movie. It's haunting.
Yeah, overall, I'm very proud of the work I did on it. You know, like I said, I hadn't edited a feature film before this, so it was a massive learning experience, and it was a very fun project to work on too.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact: that's actually me driving. That's my car.
And there is the hooded guy again. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's up to you to decide what it all means.
Yeah, this was the first RC Films thing that we did like like we did two projects at the exact same time, and both were features. So it was like
Right.
it was a colossal task, and I don't know how we finished both, but we did, and I'm very proud of that. Shouldn't say finished both because not so still like in post production, but I mean we shot both of them, and we're about to finish the second one. So. But yeah, that's 7th. I don't know if there's a ton more to say about it, but I know I had a good time making this movie. It was a journey. Shooting went from great to insane to pretty good again, and then when you came in to edit it, that's when the movie really took shape.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it was a series of good decisions in the editing that made the movie what it is. You and Micah brought it together. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out.
I am too. I'm proud of a lot of the work that we did on it. Yeah, I mean it was overall like a really positive experience. and I learned a lot. And I mean, I wasn't there for a lot of the shooting days, and I think you guys were a lot more stressed out than I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was an experience, but it was a good experience, and we all learned a lot. I mean, like I said before, this was the first found footage movie that any of us had worked on, and I think we all underestimated how different that process is from what we had gotten used to.
Yeah.
So there was a big learning curve for everybody. Performances, there was a learning curve. Just my job of producing and making sure everything was going according to plan was completely different because I couldn't be there that much. I had to be hidden.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we learned a lot making this movie, and Micah learned the most, I hope. I think he did.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you would know more than me because you guys you guys collaborated very closely with the
months in his basement.
But
yeah,
go listen. If this is the first time, if you're only listening to this one, listen to the filmmaker's commentary also, because they're probably going to go over stuff that we didn't go over. But thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
All right, bye. I'll probably just